Hi, and thank you for joining us. My guest today is a gentleman named John Yost. He has a fascinating story, and I think you're absolutely going to enjoy this. John's career began under the jurisprudence of the US Treasury Department. During that process, he attained his U.S. Customs broker's license and occasionally was a paid consultant to the FBI in international trade matters. After 10 successful years, the work lost its appeal. He left his position and sought another opportunity, a very precious childhood dream, as a matter of fact. And he then moved forward to produce an amazing documentary film entitled Alien Abduction Answers. Within 4 years, John had successfully earned an invitation to all the national arts organizations: the Screen Actors Guild, the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, Actors Equity Association, and American Guild of Musical Artists. John eventually joined the team of RYNO Productions and began the foundation work that would eventually become RYNO Pictures. In addition to the hundreds of projects that he has written and directed, he has also produced several films with Alien Abduction Answers as his watershed project, where he finally was able to tell the true story of what happened to him as a child.
This is not communication, it's communion. Hundreds of thousands of people have claimed contact. That will change you. It changed me.
Lost in between two worlds and two dreams.
This was something that I kept buried for years. Strange things would happen. I didn't want anything to do with it anymore.
He came at me, and I fought for my life.
Ships started to pop up in the sky.
And there's this bizarre disk of light. And it is moving across the sky very fast.
The experience is often very terrifying.
If I felt fear, I would crawl under my covers, hoping that it would go away, whatever it was.
I know that we were put in that craft.
I knew I was going to go to another planet.
And the being was right next to my face.
He saw two shadow beings. That's when I felt like I was going to die.
I had a real encounter with something. Even if I had to live with the fear, is to know the truth, is to know.
John, how you doing tonight?
Good evening. Thanks, Jim, for having me. And thank you, Patricia, behind the scenes. I appreciate you too. Thanks for having me, sir.
Well, that was awesome. I've seen this picture. I've seen this documentary about 3 times, and I can tell our listeners, you've got to watch this. If you are interested at all in the UFO phenomena, in the alien abduction, in the experiencer phenomena, if you are interested in various levels of the human spirit, please take time to watch this picture. Find out some way to get this picture on your screen. So, John, this film is awesome. I got some questions here in front of me. I'm just begging to ask you, and I certainly don't want to put you on the spot on any of this.
No,
Let's start
please
from
go
the
right
beginning.
ahead.
Let's
Sure.
start from the beginning.
Yes, sir.
Can you give us kind of the Reader's Digest of your experience?
Sure. When I was 7 years old, this is 1974 in Pennsylvania. It was August. It was very, very humid, and I was sleeping middle of the night. And my family was not wealthy, so we didn't have air conditioning. The windows were all open, and I was awakened by this noise, kind of like a hum or a drone, and it just was undulating, and it kept me up, and I was angry. You know, I'm a little kid. I'm tired. Leave me alone. Sat up on the side of my bed, wiped the sleep from my eyes, and went to the bathroom. You know, I'm in there getting a glass of water, whatever. And after some time, I went to the door and opened up the bathroom door to walk back out. And standing in the hallway was, to what my 7-year-old eyes appeared to be, a character I'd seen 1,000 times on Japanese television. It was a character called Ultraman. Now, Ultraman, for people who don't know, was this giant guy, and he was all silver, and he had big eyes, and he had kind of a round head, and he fought the monsters. Right, he was this comic book hero kind of guy, and he fought monsters like a Godzilla type. And so I thought, you know, Ultraman was cool. I saw Ultraman, and he was there, and the difference was, though, I was the smallest kid in my class until about high school, so he was as small as me. He was a tiny Ultraman. But I wasn't afraid because I loved Ultraman, and we got very, very close, and I mean like nose to nose close. And then something happened. I described it in the past like this: if you've ever been on a beach, and the water rolls up over your ankles, and as the water goes back out, it starts to pull the sand from underneath your feet, and you feel like you're falling back. Well, that's the way it felt, and I was, you know, I'm a little boy, I'm petrified. And I start to flail my arms like a drowning man. Well, at this point, I literally lay hands on this character, this thing, this entity. And there is a tremendous flash of light. There's all of these different colored lights, blue and green and yellow and magenta, speeding past me. I felt like I was moving. I was unsure. And I couldn't really make out those lights. All I could see were the different hues. And I'm in the middle of this fight, and somehow I kind of come to my senses, and things are slowing down, but something very strange has happened. I'm now in the hallway, and this Ultraman cat is in the bathroom with his back to the bathroom. Well, I'm in the middle of this thing, and I go to hit him. And I say him, I'm not sure it was him, but I'm just saying the character. And Ultraman raises his hand and touches me on the left shoulder. Well, there's like, once again, if you felt a wave hit you in the chest, it hit me in the shoulder and the chest and knocked me backwards. Right behind me in the hallway is a hardwood set of stairs to the first floor. And I fall up and over and banging off walls and just nail on the bottom of this floor. And I'm screaming like a banshee. My parents hear this, and they have a first floor bedroom, and they come running around the corner. My father's screaming, you know, what the hell's going on? This sort of thing. He's out of a dead sleep, and I am squealing and screaming. I'm saying, Ultraman's upstairs, you know. And I'm sure my father heard, you know, intruder. So he bounds up the stairs. My mom is trying to hold her son, and I am sobbing. I'm uncontrollable. And so after some time, my father's slamming doors, whatever. He comes to the top of the stairs, and he looks really ticked off because, you know, there's nothing there. And so they take me upstairs, and they do what parents do. You know, they look in the closet. See, there's nothing there. Look under the bed. See, there's nothing there. And they calm me down a little bit. My mom kisses me on the forehead, and I remember just falling asleep immediately. I don't know if it was because of all the, you know, the adrenaline pumping through my body, but I just went into a coma. Now, the next day, once again, I'm going to age myself. It's 1974. So back then, kids didn't sit on a sofa and play with their screens. You know, back then, you grabbed a waffle when you ran outside. You played all day until your mom called you for dinner. And that's what I did. It was summertime, no school. I was running outside, going crazy, you know, playing ball with the guys. And I felt like I got beat up by a bully, but it wasn't something that was top of mind. And once again, I'm 7 years old, so I have no idea of what's important, what's not important. I come in, my mom calls me for dinner, and as I mentioned, it was very humid, so I was disgusting. And my mom said, we're going to get a bath before dinner. And I don't want to. I'm a little boy. I'm struggling with her, and she's pulling my T-shirt off, and She sees all the cuts and the bruises all over me, and then she gets to my left shoulder, and she says, "Oh my God, what happened here?" I said, "Mom, I told you, it's Ultraman." She looked really sad. Gave me a little kiss on the forehead, said, "It'll be okay, honey, it'll be okay." A couple of days later, my dad is taking me to the doctor's office. And as we pull into the parking lot, he says to me, "Now listen, when we get in there, I don't want to hear anything about this Ultraman guy. Okay, you keep that stuff to yourself, okay?" And I love my dad, I worshiped him. Sure, Dad, whatever you say, and of course, I don't understand why this is important or not. I'm a little kid. I get in there, the doctor is checking out all these bruises and cuts, which are healing now. It's a couple days later, and they're yellowing and that sort of thing. And he gets to my shoulder, and he says, "Oh, sport, what the heck's this? What the heck is this?" And I start to blurt out, "Well, there was this guy," and my dad is standing in the corner, man, and he is looking at me with the look, And, once again, I'll date myself. Today, children talk back to their parents all the time. Back in the 70s, if your father gave you the look, you knew what the heck that meant. You shut your darn mouth. And so I looked at, and man, he gave me that look, and I just said, I fell, I was playing, whatever. So then the doctor manipulated the injury and asked me if it hurt, and tried to see if there was fluid in it. And this, the time passed, and he gave me a lollipop, and I walked out the door. A little kid. This is all going in order, and this is normal for me. On the way home, my dad, he gets us home to my parents' home, and he pulls into the driveway, and now his tone changes, and he says, "Now listen, I never ever want to hear anything about this Ultraman guy. I want you to shut your damn mouth about this. I don't want you to talk about it. I don't want you scaring your mother. I don't want you scaring your sisters. You shut up about it." And I mean, I'm a little scared. My dad's yelling at me. And also I feel kind of like, did I do something wrong? And it's all mixed in there with that fear and also being physically hurt. And so it's a complicated soup of emotions, if you will. And so I shut up about it. I lied about it my whole life. And it changed too, because when I was a little kid, I just obeyed my father, right? But then I got into high school and university, playing sports and things. Guys would see me in the shower room or the locker room, and they say, "Hey, Yost, what is that?" Well, I kind of I remembered everything that happened to me, but I kind of got the feeling that if I told them the truth, I don't know if they'd be hanging out with me after that. And so I just didn't think that would be cool to say, "Hey, listen, I was, abducted." So I made up stupid stuff. I would say, a shark bit me. I got hit by lightning, or, whatever. But watch this. In like 3 to 5 to 8 seconds, I diffused the entire matter. They went, Yost, you're full of crap. And then they never did a follow-up question. There was never, anything I had to explain, because they just let it go. And anyway, so that's what happened. And then I lived that way. Nobody knew what happened to me until I was after 50, 51, 52.
That's an incredible experience.
Yeah.
John, you had a great job with the US Treasury Department.
Well,
this must have been, excuse me.
No,
this
go ahead.
must
I'm
have
sorry.
been daunting. I mean, this is a great documentary. And friends, again, I can't, I've been in ufology for 20 some years. You've got to see this. Good Lord, where did you start, John?
Well, I worked, and to be careful about this, I didn't work specifically for the U.S. Treasury Department. I worked under the jurisprudence. As a U.S. Customs broker, my license is signed by the Commissioner of the Treasury, okay, the Secretary of the Treasury, and the Commissioner of Customs. And so we followed. It's like a bank works under the FDIC, this sort of thing, or under the Fed. Right. Yeah, so that's what happened. And I lived around the world and did all kinds of stuff. We moved people, material, intellectual properties, and billions of dollars throughout the world. And each country has their own trade agreements, so we navigated those types of things, and we helped them with logistics. And then, of course, if they got in trouble, we did petitions and protests in the Court of International, Trade Affairs, whatever. But after about 10 years, it kind of lost its juice. You know what I mean? I mean, it was a job, and I just felt like I was dying there, you know. And so I wanted to do something with my life, and I always had this dream of being in film and television business, you know. And so, with 2 children, a mortgage, 2 cars, and a dear wife, and a mother-in-law, oh, God bless her. I decided I was going to do that, and so I got involved with film and television, much to the chagrin of everybody around me, who said I would absolutely fail. But within 3 years, I was within all of the guilds, and I've worked around the world, in front of the camera, behind the camera, writing, producing, directing, acting, the whole bit. And what happened was this: I was on a shoot in a place called Borrego Springs, California. Totally unrelated, just whatever, doing something. And I got like 15, 17 people with me. We rented this big ranch house. Because out in the desert, you want to herd the cats. You don't want them to get lost,
Well, yeah,
right?
right.
So we come in, and it's a night shoot, and everybody's out by the pool behind this big ranch house. And I come out, they're going to do a toast. They give me a glass. I raise my hand, and I see a glint of light in the glass. What the heck is that? My mind's, you know, oh, well, that's the moon. And I went, wait a second, that's not the moon. I'm the producer on this. I scheduled to shoot tonight, so there would be no moon. I wanted to control the light. I didn't want shadows to come across my picture, this sort of thing. And so I said, what the heck? And as I drop this, I see, I'm facing the house, the pool's behind me. There is this blue-green, luminous, egg-shaped type thing right above the house. And I'm talking about like 30 feet in the air, where I could throw a baseball and hit it. And I'm looking at this thing, and I'm saying to myself, what is... Oh, you know what that is? That's a Mylar balloon. That's like a get well balloon or a happy birthday balloon. This is my idea. And then I went, wait a second, that's as big as a Volkswagen. That's not. And just then, this thing, Jim, I'm telling you something, move that fast. Zip, 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 and it stops right above my head. Now, everybody around me is noticing this, because I had grabbed one of my camera guys. I said, look at it. He says, oh my God. Everybody's like, ooh, wow, is this a UFO? What is that? You know? And I'm just looking at this thing. This thing zips and stops right above my head. And I don't know how long it was there, but I got that feeling that I had not felt since I was a little boy. The ground slipping out from underneath me. And I immediately was transported back 45 years. And I was petrified. And I'm like, I was so afraid that like the insides, my organs were shaking. I don't know if you've ever been that cold or that sick. And this thing then zips away from me about 20 feet. Everybody is still buzzing and talking about it. And then it just starts to drift off into the desert. And remember, I said it's very flat there. So we watch it for like a minute and a half. I am losing my mind. People are saying, this is cool. And I am dying. I am dying. I make some stupid joke, and I go back to the room that's mine, and I barricade the door with the bed. I slide the bed up against the door, and I throw my luggage up against it, and I sit in a corner, and I cry my eyes out. Now, you got to understand something. This is not a 50-some-year-old guy dealing with something. This is a 7-year-old kid who never dealt with something, right?
Right.
So I'm just sobbing and sobbing. I have a terrible night, a fitful night, very little sleep, if any. And I now have developed, I'm furious, I'm anger, filled with anger, because, you know, I'm the producer in this thing. I'm in charge, you know, and when you're a producer, you got to check boxes. You got to watch a lot of money that's not yours usually. You got to be on top of it. And I am falling out. I'm losing control. And I don't understand this. So I'm going to get a coffee, going to hit those showers, going to kick ass, you know, this sort of thing. I'm there. I'm fine. I try to go outside. I can't go outside. I have developed somehow an instant fear of big sky. And that water, I can't get near that water. I'm petrified. And this turns me into like heat miser. My face is red. I am furious. Somehow, by the grace of God, I get through this shoot. And then by the grace of triple distilled Irish whiskey, I get back to the coast. So I get back to the coast.
Like a true Irishman.
Oh, man. But I'm not proud of what I did to myself to get home, but I did. But when I get off the plane, my family and friends, they know something's wrong. They know something's wrong. It got so bad, Jim, that I would get to work either very early or very late, and wait for somebody else to get out of it, and I would run and then walk in with them, so I could be with somebody and look over my shoulder and make sure nothing was above me. It was terrible. It was ruining my life. It was ruining my business. It was ruining my work, and I was just losing my mind. And so what happened at this point was this. This had nothing to do with the film, nothing to do with anything. It just had to do with self-preservation, right? I realized that I was nobody special, meaning that I'm sure that other people have had experiences. This is what my point of view was. And to be honest with you, I'm not proud of this. Shows what a small person I am. I didn't give a damn what their experiences were. What I wanted to know was, how the hell could they go grocery shopping? How could they pay bills? How could they live a normal life with this craziness, like an elephant in your bedroom? How could you function as a normal human being? Because I was not functioning. So I started to read a little bit about stuff. And then I found a few people that I, said they were experiencers. And I talked to them. And then eventually I started to film a couple of them. That gave me a little courage. I could share a few things with them. And this is the thing. As I said to you, my entire life, all the details I told you at the very beginning, I could tell you, I could rattle off. But they never had any kind of emotional content. It was only after that thing was above my head that all the emotions came back. So in retelling these people, I got to this point in the story where I was at the top of those stairs and I was in the bathroom. There were all these lights, and somehow I got interpolated with this character. And I, for the life of me, could not remember how that happened. And that bugged the hell out of me. And at this point, I'm starting to feel a little bit better, but now I'm mad. Now my fear is overcome by anger and frustration and my need to know. And so that's what led me to a woman named Deb Shakti. They had suggested Deb Shakti. And Deb Shakti is a quantum hypnotherapist. And she's I don't know if you've ever met her in person.
Oh, I haven't met her in person, John, but I've met her on the show.
Yeah.
She's an awesome lady.
She's an awesome lady. But she's a tiny little person. I mean, she's like an elf. And I'm a big galoot. And she says, I can help you. And I'm looking down, hey, little lady, I'm not a misogynist, but I just can't believe that anybody could take all of this stress from me and help me with it. And she said this. She said, look, John, I'm not going to do anything. All I'm going to do is show you how to relax. You have spent years, the majority of your life, surrounding yourself with this impenetrable emotional blister that insulates you from the world and insulates you from this stuff. I'm going to show you how to relax enough that you can walk down that hallway that you built and open that door that you locked and open up that file cabinet. All you're going to do is you're going to view, you're going to observe, and you're going to report. That's it. And so at this point, I thought, you know what? Maybe people could really benefit from this. Because if this joker here, kept this all my life and never talked about it, I'm thinking there are a bunch of people out there suffering like this. And they would never talk to anybody, or they would never have anybody they felt comfortable with. And I thought at this point, you know what? Maybe I could help some people. And at the time, Debs was not completely on board with that idea. She said, look, this is not a carnival. We're not playing some kid's game. We're playing with your soul, your consciousness, man. And I said, no, I don't want to do some Hollywood crap. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I want to just capture it raw and share it with people. And then when she realized that it was to help people, she was on board, but she had all kinds of rules. Like in the film, you see it, right? But the actual session was 6.5 hours long.
Oh, really?
What you see in the film is maybe 10 or 15, maybe 20 minutes of it throughout. And we had to have remote cameras and everything else. I know that's a long story. I apologize. But that's really how the film began.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Patricia, put that picture up there of Debs and Whitley. How did this gentleman get involved in this picture, John?
Sure. Mr. Strieber. People ask me all the time, do you know this guy or do you know this person or this girl in the community? And I don't know anybody because I'm not in the community. I'm just a guy. And so I see the film through two sets of eyes. I see the film through the eyes of an experiencer because, I mean, I lived it and these people lived it and it's raw and it's emotional. So I put the film together and I realized after watching it, it was raw and it was up and down like a roller coaster. But then I look at it like a filmmaker because that's what I do for a living. And I realized it was uneven. It needed to be smoothed out. We needed a counterpoint, somebody kind of like a sage word of wisdom to kind of give the audience kind of a break in between these emotional interludes that could help them with perspective and help them reframe and maybe ask questions they didn't think about. And I thought, man, the person I think about would be like a Whitley Strieber for this. But I didn't know him. I didn't know anybody. So I asked Debs if she knew anybody who knew anybody who knew. And my God, that woman, she was tenacious. And she finally got to Whitley Strieber. Now, I'll tell you a funny story about Whitley Strieber. Whitley Strieber is, he gets on the phone with me and he is tough on me. And he is really, you know, I don't want to say accusatory, but I mean, he's pretty tough on me. And I've dealt with some of the biggest stars in the world. And but I felt a little put off. I'm like, man, you know, we're just talking, you know. But what I think was happening was he was really kind of filtering me. Wanted to make sure I wasn't one of these crazy mermaid people. And I've met the mermaid people. You know, the mermaid people want me to be the mermaid king and have the mermaid babies. Okay. Now,
I
God bless
actually
it.
believe in challenging people sometimes. I've been in this a long while.
Yeah. So that's what he did to me. And so what I said to him was this. I said, look, Mr. Strieber, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you all the questions up front. You see a red flag, throw them away. Or you see something you don't want to answer, you cross it out. So then what I did was I went out and I purchased every one of his books, all of his fiction, all of his serious stuff, and I read them all. I'm a bibliophile. So I crammed it all in my head. And I came up with like 63 questions. I sent them to him.
Mm-hmm.
He got back to me and he said, you know, John, he said, I've done a lot of interviews. He said, these are pretty, you know, intuitive, deep questions. He goes, I don't know if anybody's ever asked me these questions. And I said, well, sir, I'm just very serious about this. And I want you to know that that's, you know, and so to his credit, he didn't take one of the questions off, any one of them. So I go out to meet him the day before. Debs and I actually go out to the West Coast and my whole crew and everything else. And I want to meet Mr. Strieber the day before because I want to build like some sort of rapport. When we're going to be on camera, I don't want it to be stiff or stilted, right?
Right.
And so we meet him, we have dinner, and he is funny, clever, charming. And he makes fun of me, which I laughed my head off. I thought that was hysterical. I said, I love this guy. And totally unlike, because I guess after you get through that layer of, you know, protective, you know, detail there, that, you know, he feels comfortable enough to show you his real side. So anyway, we're going to go do the filming the next day. Everything's beautiful. We set it up. And there's a picture of actually me and Whitley. I don't know if you guys have it, but I'm leaning over and he's talking to me and I'm talking to him. And he says to me, I say to him, I said, listen, Mr. Strieber, I want to let you know that everything's perfect. You know, the light's perfect. You know, I'm going to make you look fantastic. Everything is great. The audio is great. And he grabs my arm and he looks up at me and he says, John, he said, to tell you the truth, I don't give a damn how I look. He said, I don't really care at all. He said, all I want to do is tell the truth. And I thought, man, this is a guy. You know what I mean? I mean, what kind of integrity is that?
That's Whitley there, right?
That's Whitley Strieber right there. And me looking at him cross-eyed because he just said something that blew my mind again. And I said, oh, man, when I grow up, I want to be you. You know, this is my mind, you know, with his integrity. And so then after that, what I did was I sent him the entire tape. I said, look, sir, if you see anything in here that you don't want to be aired, you take a line here and I'll take it out. He said, no, John, everything is fine after he watched it. And then I said, well, listen, I'm going to insert you in the film. If you think I've taken you out of context or put you in a place that I want a narrative that you don't think that's appropriate, I want you to tell me and I'll take it out. At the very end, he approved the entire film, never had a cut. approved everything. So I feel very comfortable that Mr. Strieber approves of this film. And I'll tell you one more thing. If you hear me, I call him Mr. Strieber. And and he and I are very, very I wouldn't say we're friends because then I would be claiming something. But I would say we're very friendly. We talk, maybe every 4 to 6 weeks because, the film is opening in new markets and this sort of thing. I want to report back to him. And I constantly call him Mr. Strieber because I have such respect for him. And he, I think, gets a kick out of that and makes fun of me. And I think he takes great delight in that.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, John. Let's step backwards in this conversation a little bit.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
During your experience, I hate using the word abduction. Okay.
Yes, sir.
I like using the word experience.
Yes, sir.
During your experience, can you recall anything that you did that happened to you during the experience? You saw Ultraman.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
You went down the stairs.
Yes, sir.
Could have killed yourself.
Could have.
Good Lord. Those looked like some pretty, yeah. I mean,
Yes,
your
sir.
parents are
Yes,
probably
sir.
very happy that that's a long way down to the bottom there.
Yes, sir. I laid right at the bottom of those stairs.
And for what? What were you, 10, 12, 7, 8? What,
I
how old were you?
was 7 years old.
7-year-old boy going down those stairs.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you had an experience. What do you recall from that experience other than your normal reality?
Yeah. Well, what happened was when Debs helped me relax, I recalled everything. I recalled that, number one, this had not been the first time I was taken. In fact, that's why I was fighting this entity. And it's because I didn't want to go. And the second thing is that Ultraman was kind of a screen memory. Either I made him up or this entity kind of projected him in my head, so I would not fight. And and in fact, this entity was more insectoid, kind of ant-like, large dark eyes, brown, like exoskeleton skin, and the antenna were not like typical ant antenna. They were more like truncated branches or truncated antlers. If you've ever seen a young deer with antlers, they have fuzz on them, little fur on them. It kind of looked like that, and they were truncated. And this thing was trying to coerce me to go, and I didn't want to go. And when I was struggling with him, that's what happened. Now I don't know how, by what mechanism, what kind of tech I was transported, but I was not transported to a ship. I was taken subterranean to a place underground. And I know that because, first of all, I could feel the moisture in the air, and I could smell the moisture in the air, the musty water, and I could see stalagmites and stalactites. So it was natural. It was a natural formation. It was, Jim, this thing was freaking immense. If you've been in a stadium before, if I took you out into the middle of a stadium at, say, midnight and turned off all the lights and nobody was there except you, that's how freaking big this thing was. It was ginormous. And at the top, the apex of this kind of dome, there was an opening, but it was irregular. It wasn't like a perfect circle. It was irregular. And I could see things kind of like hanging down, maybe like moss or something. And there was a light source, but it was offset. It was almost like, so it wasn't a spotlight or anything. It was like if the moon was over here, and so it kind of spilled into the hole, that sort of thing. It wasn't directly above. And I was there, and there were other entities there. And in the film, you see them. Our special effects guys did a pretty good job. They resemble the kind of gray that people understand, except they didn't have pointed jawline. They almost like elongated, kind of square. In fact, I remember as a little boy, I would call them horse heads or horse face. Not because they look like horses, but because they had the elongated face.
Right.
And so those were the cats in control. In fact, it's so, I don't want to say funny because it's not funny at all, but I mean ironic. When you hear me speak in the film when I'm under, I speak like a little boy. You know, you hear me say like this ant guy, he's their bully, something like that. You know.
Oh, okay.
So it's actually hard. It's the actual tape of the regression is hard to watch because you see this. You don't see me. You see this little kid suffering. And so and the raw is in the film. I mean, we didn't edit it. It's not a recreation. What you're seeing is the actual thing. And so I was kind of suspended. I want to say I was in a chair or some sort of a seat, but I don't remember. And I was leaning back, almost like a lazy boy. It wasn't flat. And in front of me were these gigantic, I mean like 60 feet high in the air, gigantic screens. There were 3 of them. And there were, in the screens, there were pictures. They were nonsensical pictures. They didn't all have one particular element. And there were hundreds or thousands of these pictures. And they were pictures within pictures within pictures. I don't know if I've ever seen something like this. I remember when I was a kid in the 80s, you could go to a mall and you'd pass by a picture or on an easel, and let's say it was a picture of Abraham Lincoln, right? But as you got closer, you saw that it was made up of these little pictures of Abraham Lincoln in all kinds of different poses. But as you step back, you could see, it's Abraham Lincoln. But you get close, it's 1,000 pictures of Abraham Lincoln. It was kind of like that, pictures within pictures within pictures. And the information that was coming to me was not from the pictures themselves. It was like in between those lines. There were definite black lines. And it was like the information was being downloaded to me from them. And also, I'll tell you another funny thing about being a little kid. These pictures, everything was moving right to left, moving like across the screens like this. And I was ticked off. Now remember, I'm 7 years old, and I am learning at that time how to write cursive. And we speak English, right? So it's left to right. So these things were moving right to left, and I was mad. I can remember being a little kid being mad at these guys. You're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong, right? Ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
But that's what I was fixing. I mean, I've always been anal retentive. That's how I got my jobs. But I was ticked off at these cats for doing this. And all of this information was moving and moving and moving and moving. And I was mad because I couldn't catch up. And this information was just pounding into my head. And then once again, I don't know by what kind of tech, I was back up into that hallway. But somehow I didn't come up into the bathroom. I came up into the hallway. And I'm mad as a hornet. And I go to hit this cat. And just then he raises his hand. Boom. And I was down the stairs. Just like that. But that's what I recall.
That's what you recall. Well, let me ask you this. And moving forward, the repercussions of your movie.
Oh.
Okay. Now, there's your family, your friends, your old workmates, your peers, those who knew you in the Treasury Department, the FBI, they know John Yost has got a picture out there.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
How are you being received?
It's like everything in life, I guess it's complicated, right? A mixed bag. I'll give you the worst of times first. I was at a wedding right around the holidays. And it was a family wedding, so I know everybody. And there were people that would not make eye contact with me. People, my family, my friends, I've known all my life. There was, I can tell you an instance. I'm speaking to somebody here. There's another person here. This person comes up who I know. I won't identify, but I know my entire life. It's right here, speaks across me, and turns, looks at me, and walks right away. So it's not like they didn't know it was me. So I've had a couple of those. I've had some people who refuse my phone calls. And yet, on the other side, I've also had completely unexpectedly, a call or a bump into somebody who goes, "Hey, John, I never told anybody this, but," something like that. So I've had both of these. There's, and it's hard because you love people, right?
Right.
And it's hard to miss that. And you have to know something, Jim. As I said, I lied about it my entire life. So let me tell you a dynamic with my sweet wife. And we've been married for, over 30 years. When this film, like I make the film, right? And making the film you think is hard. Yeah, it's hard. Getting it distributed, even harder, right? So I don't know that it's going to get distributed. I'm trying, but I don't know. We get the word it's going to be distributed. And then I go, oh, crap. My family doesn't know. So I have to have the talk, right? Which was a series of conversations. And the looks that I got, Dad, I mean, my kids, is Dad under stress here? Is he taking drugs? Is he drunk? What's he saying? This is madness. Never heard this my entire life. And my wife, she went through a couple different levels. I mean, there was a moment there where she felt kind of betrayed, right? I mean, we've been married all our lives. What, you never said anything? What are you talking about? And then I tried to, backtrack and say, okay, well, look, would you have married me if I said, hey, listen, I was abducted by aliens? I don't know that would have been, my opening salvo before, will you marry me?
Yeah.
I said, and then after a while, it didn't matter, right? It's not like they're coming into my bedroom or whatever. This is my conversation points to it. So, that's been tough too. And then, I had to prepare them to see the film because they were not ready. And so I had a private screening just for them. And there were a lot of tears and there was a lot of fear and there was a lot of, looking deep in my eyes, making sure that, that I was okay. And I tell you, Jim, I've lived a life where I lied about something so intimate, so real, so honest. And I lied about it my entire life, and it poisoned everything I touched. It really did taint. When you hold something back like that, it poisons you. And so I'm not that guy anymore. And that's hard too. Everybody says they want the truth. They don't always want the truth. I found that out too.
Well, I guess I have a question.
Yes, sir.
We all come up. You're in your 50s. Are you?
Yes, sir.
We have a certain set of beliefs that we're raised with.
Yes, sir.
Regardless of what that is. John, where are you at spiritually today because of this event?
Yeah. I understand the sensitivity of that question. And Jim, I applaud you for asking it. I think it's a hard question. A lot of people don't ask it. I'll say this. I'm a firm believer in a creator God. And that God I call Yahweh. And I believe completely in a Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, Yeshua Christ. That's my Savior. Okay. Now, having said that, God creates everything, right? So he creates everything. The whales, me, you, mountains, aliens, spirits, demons, everything. Everything comes from one source. Now watch this. Let's smooth out this belief system. There are really kind of three buckets in the world, and you'll have to follow me on this. Watch. There's the one bucket, like I'm in, right? People who believe in a creator God and this sort of thing, right? Okay. Then you have another bucket. These are people who are like agnostic, who say, things look like they're put together with intelligence. Are we in a simulation? Is this a matrix? What's going on? Maybe, but I'm not quite sure. Okay. And then you have hardcore atheists. I don't believe in anything. I don't believe in me. I don't believe in you. I don't believe in white bread. Whatever. Okay.
Right.
Okay, fine. But watch this. Let's go to the atheist first. So if you say to the atheist, well, how did everything begin? Oh, well, that's the Big Bang. It's scientifically proven, blah, 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 even though it's a theory. Okay, fine. So that's the Big Bang. And the agnostic says, oh, it's a, this matrix, or it's a code, or some sort of intel. Okay, so there's a source for it. And then the religious guy like me says, hey, listen, it's a creator God. Okay, so I say to the atheist this. I say, look, if that's the case, if you're correct and I'm full of crap, let's just say, then that explosion and all those particles that went out, that makes you up. And it makes me. And it makes Jim Mann. And it makes Patricia. And it makes the people that I don't like. And it makes the people I love. And it makes them and them and them. So in truth, there is a source. And in truth, there is this idea that we are all one because we all share that same stardust, that same code, or that same slice of God that he puts in each one of us, that spirit, that soul. So I don't care where you are on the spectrum. It doesn't really matter. We don't have to fight about that. It's immaterial. It's a distraction. What is it? So where am I spiritually? Listen, man. Christ said, love others as you love yourself. I think that is a genius statement. And I think if you're an atheist, if you're an agnostic, if you're a religious person like myself, you don't have to fight about that. I think every single person could agree on that. Now, can we do it? That's a different thing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but spiritually, that's where I am. I love my God above all else, and I love my neighbor as myself.
Well, we're running up on time here. I'm going to
Yes,
ask
sir.
you one more question, and this is coming from Patricia. She says, "Has you had anything else happen to you since?"
Oh,
Am I opening up a can of worms here?
You like to ask questions, Patricia. I know about you. I want some hot dish. That's what I want. Okay, so listen. So here's the deal. I make the movie, and I go through the turmoil of trying to tell my friends and family, and it's hard. But I kind of get to this place in me that I've kind of settled a little bit. I still get choked up sometimes when I talk about it because of the emotions. You can't lie about something. You can't suffer with something for 45 years, and then in a year you're fine. I tell everybody, I say, look at this body. This is not the result of one double whopper. This is years of abuse, right? So I mean, it's going to take me a while. It's going to take me a while to completely heal. But I do have this kind of sense of, okay, it happened back then. And I kind of analyze it. I'm fine with it, and that's fine. Okay. But this is where my mind is at this point. What I don't realize is that event in the desert, which cracked me open wide. So now I'm having experiences that I don't remember ever having. For example, huge gaps of missing time. Being in places that I have never been before, and I don't know how I got there. Here's a factual, demonstrable, data-driven point. My office is about an hour and 15 minutes away. And I've been driving there for 13 or 14 years. So I know it very well,
Yeah,
I can drive it with my eyes closed. It doesn't take me 3.5 hours to get there on a sunny day. It doesn't take me 3 hours. It doesn't take me 4 hours or to get home. And I'm ending up in places like in the middle of nowhere. My phones are turned off. My GPS in the car's turned off. There's no record of how I got there. And I'm looking around. I have to boot everything up, wait for it to find how the hell to get home or how the hell to get to my office. There's that stuff. Also, I don't live in, I guess I should be embarrassed by this, but I don't live in a very safe area, right? I'm just saying. I just don't. And so I have locks on locks on locks. I have security systems on top of security systems and heat sensors and all this. I got everything, right? So I always tell people, listen, if you're going to come see me, call first. Okay. But
I don't want to cut. I'm
no,
sorry,
that's
I don't
okay.
want to cut
That's
you off,
okay.
John, but
That's okay.
we're pretty much flat out of time.
Oh, I'm sorry, brother. I'm sorry.
I want to have you back.
Yes,
I think we got a lot more to talk about, you and I.
Yes, sir.
And I want to have Debs on here.
Oh, I love Debs.
Debs. I want to hear
Love it.
more of your story, but we are
Yes,
out
sir.
of time, John. It has been amazing listening to you, and I really apologize for cutting you off
No,
because
no,
you
no.
had something to say.
Oh, God bless you.
But
This is your show.
I've enjoyed this,
Thank you.
and
Me
we need to
too.
get back together again.
We will, sir.
Talk
We
some
will.
more.
We will.
So I'm looking at the clock. We're down to just about 6-7 minutes,
Yes, sir.
and I want to run this last little
Go ahead.
trailer that you have.
Yes, sir.
So, friends, listen. Find a way. John, tell them where this is at. This movie's at.
Sure. This movie is called Alien Abduction Answers. In North America, you can find it on Amazon Prime. You can find it on Google Play. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it on Video Demand, anywhere. If you're international, if you're in Europe or South America, whatever, you can go to kgraradio.com, and they provide an international streaming link that you can have access to the film. You can rent it there or buy it. Yeah.
Okay. And with that, on behalf of John Yost, Patricia Wilkinson, my program manager, who's been doing all the work behind the scenes, watch this last trailer and thank you for visiting us. Have a good night.
You're met face to face with something so alien as an intelligence from another planet or dimension that will change you. It changed me.
Wherever you are in the world, is Grant Cameron. I have only one word. If you don't watch this, you're going to miss something, because it's about time someone did this documentary. It is the best documentary I've seen, which has a lot of stories about it and a lot of myth about it, and that's the alien abduction phenomenon. This documentary gets it exactly right.